Is there anything in the news that we want to talk about? Any announcements, animation-wise, that are worth mentioning?
I mean, we probably don't really want to talk about this, but did you hear about the whole Dan Harmon bento box NFT
Yes.
announcement?
I'm so fucking annoyed because I was really looking forward to that show. And I'm still going to watch it, but like, why? What the hell is that?
Right.
What is that? I don't get it.
I can't.
I mean, like, part of me feels like maybe their mindset in it is like, okay, so like back in the day when they made cartoons, you would have animation cells. You could sell those off. You know what I mean? You could sell off the animation cells as memorabilia. That doesn't exist anymore. Like, they don't make cells for computer animated stuff now, right? No. So maybe in their mind it's like, well, if we sell off NFT assets, it's effectively the same thing as these like one of a kind cells that we used to make, you know. But I don't know. I don't understand what that entails. It's funded by blockchain. What the fuck does that mean? I don't understand.
I can't even. It's like, I don't understand any of that stuff, and I don't want to ask because I don't want anybody to. I don't want to be stuck listening to somebody explain that to me. You know. Like, I don't care.
Yeah,
it does sound like
people tell me it's bad for the environment. Then you know what? Then I'm against it.
It's like the most annoyingly uninteresting thing on the planet. Yeah.
It took me like years to understand Bitcoin, and I still haven't gotten to the point where I care about it.
Right.
NFTs. I'm at square one still, basically.
It's crypto art. It's just crypto art, which sounds cool, but it's actually bad.
It does sound cool. I will give it that. That is a very cool
now that you call it crypto art, I'm like, tell me more. I'm interested in that.
That's a pretty good cold open conversation.
Yeah, there it is.
I guess so.
Crypto art.
So anyways, buy our cartoons that curse NFTs.
Yeah, we're starting.
Does that make sense to even say that? Buy our NFTs? I'm trying to make a joke, and I don't understand the damn thing.
That's right.
Look, we've got some CTC tokens, and they are non-fungible. All right, so
buy our Family Guy meter NFT, as you can see here.
Buy our cartoons that currency.
Yeah,
cartoons that crypto.
Cryptos that currency.
And if you want fungible tokens, get the fuck out of here. We don't have any fungible tokens.
No fungible tokens.
That's what we draw on.
All right, theme song.
I've been watching them for years, it's always been something that fit with all the animated characters that's doing their own bits. With a fry who's in the future and a family guy that sucks. With a father from a hill, a burger family runs a month. The show inspires is the same guy, except he totally say and diverse.
Let's watch cartoons that curse.
Yeah, that's bananas.
That's rough.
What the f*** is up, everybody? Welcome back to Cartoons That Curse. I'm here with my co-host, Kerrifique Tariq. How you doing, Tariq?
Yo, I'm all right. How you doing?
Great. And we are here with our guest, who is also the producer of this show, yes, Mikey Yunez. You want to go by Michael?
Hello,
Mikey? What do you want us to call you?
Well, I'm Mikey, I guess. I mean,
yeah.
When you mention my name on the podcast in passing, and sometimes I leave it in just so that I'm a bit of a presence, you say
True.
Mikey.
Yeah, and sometimes you double it up when we say your name. It's like we just say Mikey two or three times.
Sometimes I pull a piece of you saying it earlier and I ADR it on top of you talking, just so that I'm in there again.
He just wants people to be really asking, who is this Mikey? Who is Mikey? Today you get to find out.
Yeah.
Big face reveal.
Before your very
eyes. Mikey's been doing a great job editing and producing our podcast. We could not do this without him. Also, huge fan of the show we're talking about today, Archer.
Oh, yeah.
We're going to talk about Archer season 1. Mikey, you and I have been friends for a long time. We've been talking Archer and watching Archer together for years, like 10 years.
Oh yeah. I mean, I watched season 1 when it aired. I was a freshman in college. I was living in a dorm. My roommate, who's also named Mikey, by the way, we were the Mikeys.
That's funny.
Even though he had a better claim to it because he was from Tokyo and it was like Maiki, like Mikey was his name, not like a nickname.
That is better.
So
sorry.
I was kind of the fraud.
Yeah,
Yeah, but he had like a 32-inch TV that he brought into the dorm that we were so psyched about, and he was big into Always Sunny, which is also still on.
Yep.
And
Right.
so we would see the ads for Archer, and we would just be like, "This looks so funny! Like, what is this?" Like,
Yeah.
I specifically remember the joke in the ad was from the pilot when Mallory's like, "You're jetting off to Whore Island." And he's like, "Oh, sorry, I was picturing Whore Island." Like, it's the way that. I mean, honestly, like this is just. Sorry, go on.
No. I was gonna say, like, that's the thing about this show is that, like, the jokes are so snappy and so, like, gut punchingly funny that, like, the ads for the show, I'm sure, won over so many people to check the show out.
Oh yeah, and that voice.
That's what got me.
Yeah,
So all three of us watched Archer when it came out. Then
hell yeah.
yeah.
That's great. I haven't finished all of it because now there's
Me neither.
11 seasons, but I've watched a lot of it. And it's a
yeah.
great show. It's a great show. You know what I didn't do that I should have done? I normally do this is I didn't really look up anything about the inception of Archer or like why it got created, how they pitched it and all that. I wonder if there's anything on Wikipedia. Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure there's like you can infer a lot of its influences, like especially just 60s spy media.
Totally.
Get Smart
And like really specifically Get Smart. Yeah.
Right.
Because Get Smart was kind of all about the office elements of the spy agency, which is so much of this first season, mostly because of, I imagine, budget limitations. Like they eventually like really expand visually and actually go on these adventures. Whereas like the pitch for these first few episodes is almost like, what is it like, living among the drones in a spy agency,
Right.
Their day-to-day office bullshit.
It's like an office sitcom at a spy agency, basically. And there's sometimes they go out. Sometimes you see them go out on their missions and whatnot. I know Adam Reed also worked on C Lab and Frisky Dingo.
Right, which it looks identical to.
Yes, yeah, it's got a very similar look to Frisky Dingo. I've tried to start Frisky Dingo a couple times and I couldn't get into it, but I want to get into it. I want to watch it real bad. It seems so weird, and I have a feeling that like if something can click in my mind, I'll dig it. But the first couple times I watched it, I was like, I don't know what's happening.
So what year was this?
Nash is also in that, yeah.
Archer's season 1 was like 2009, I want to say.
Yeah, it was 2009.
So out of everybody here, I was the one that wasn't supposed to be watching it. Damn, was I like 12? Like it was something like that.
Man, this show must have taught you a lot.
Yeah.
Truly is a cartoon that curses, though. Like,
yes,
like Futurama, you're not going to hear somebody, calling someone the Pele of anal.
Yeah,
like this show is like very dirty.
Yeah, it is. It's raunchy as hell, and I guess that's because it's on cable. Like network shows aren't going to go there. Although and
it was a time when you were allowed to say shit, also, and so they would basically work shit into everything. Like they'd say "what the shit," like for shit's sake.
Right. It is interesting how like even cable used to not say shit, and then it feels like South Park broke that wide open with their shit episode. It hits the fan.
Now it doesn't matter, right? Like
they say shit all the time. They say shit all the time uncensored on cable now. Yeah, they just bleep fuck and anything worse than fuck. So
I didn't realize the version of Archer on Hulu was censored until like a couple episodes in.
Right.
Because
I watched it.
Just saying shit.
You know what? I watched it on. I have the Blu-ray, and I watched most of them on the Blu-ray, or like half of them on the Blu-ray, and I don't remember if it's censored on the Blu-ray or not. I think it's uncensored, but I'm not sure.
I watched it on Hulu, and I didn't think it was censored.
So there was one thing that happened that made me go, "Oh wait, this is a censor." It was we're gonna get to it, but it's the the job offer episode where Archer.
Oh, I know exactly what it is. It's a literal blur. It's a literal blur. And you know what? That was on the Blu-ray. I watched that one this morning. That was also on the Blu-ray. The blurring.
It was blurred.
So yeah.
Okay.
So maybe it was so raunchy that they were like, no one can see this.
And they definitely like censor F-bombs. I don't think that they use them too much, but I remember there is the one bit in the pilot where he's beating Pam with the dolphin and going, "Oh, fuck your dolphin, Pam." You know?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I love that. I love that shot so much. Just beating her with the dolphin puppet. It's so funny.
It was in the. I don't know if this is breaking the fourth wall, but remember when you edited the first cut of the theme song?
I specifically chose that clip because I love that clip so much.
Dude, there are so many good shots in Archer. Just the art style of the show is truly fucking incredible.
I love it. And it's like, and I think they do a really good job with their blocking and framing to kind of make up for their limited animation. It like they do really creative work with how they frame everything.
Absolutely. I was especially attuned to that this time.
Yeah, me too. Yeah,
should we get into the pilot? Or
let's
it seems like we just really want to talk about Archer now because we're like jumping into episodes that are later on.
Yeah, exactly. Well, season 1, episode 1. I guess the other thing to talk about is that this show is pretty much exclusively written by Adam Reed. Occasionally co-written episodes, but it's like almost every single episode is credited as written by Adam Reed. I think it still had a writer's room, but like he's the one who drafts all the scripts. And then I guess up until the last 2 seasons 10 and 11 10 brings in some other writers, and then 11 I don't think Adam Reed's even on it anymore. I think it's other people writing.
Really?
I think he left. Yeah.
Wow. But I'm curious. I'm real curious. Like it seems like they wanted to keep it going. It was supposed to end at 10, so they was like, well,
I remember that.
Good. Let's keep it rolling. 101 is
that curse can't end.
Right.
That's true. We're gonna be 80.
Well, the thing is, like, even just from South Park and The Simpsons, we're gonna never be able to end this podcast.
Right, Archer season 30, Simpsons season 48.
Yep.
It's gonna be a weird time.
Even Family Guy. Family Guy is gonna be 25. At season 30. It's gonna be wild.
You ever think about that? Like how after Simpsons came out, like it just nobody bats an eye at how long cartoons last anymore. Like after Simpsons hit 20. Nobody paid attention to the fact that SpongeBob's been around for 20 or Family Guy. Like that doesn't matter anymore. Like
I feel like whenever you bring up the fact that Bob's Burgers is now over 10 years old, people are like, what do you mean? That show just came out.
Right.
You know what I mean?
They're institutions, you know?
Right. And it's also weird that Fox, this is a little bit tangent, but Fox's mega hits in terms of adult animation came every 10 years. It was Simpsons, and then 10 years later Family Guy, and then 10 years later Bob's Burgers. So they're due. What do you think it is? The Great North? Duncanville?
Shit.
What's going to be the next mega hit?
One of the new Fox
House
shows.
Broken. That's the
House
one.
Broken. Man.
Yeah, there it is.
I love that's starring Lisa Kudrow, and I want that show to be so good, and the trailers aren't doing much for me yet, but I'm going to give it a shot because I love Lisa Kudrow.
Too. What day is that? It's a Monday. It's a weird day they picked for it. It comes out on a Monday.
They're expanding. They're trying to expand Animation Domination to 2 days, so they're going to do Sunday and Monday, and I think it's going to air with Duncanville or something. It's going to air with something else. Yeah.
Right.
The big question I have, I guess, is can a show on a network grow to become a big institution still?
Right.
You know?
Exactly. Like it. I guess they'd have to look at. They have to take other things into account, not just ratings, because like Simpsons, Family Guy, Bob's Burgers ratings all steady decline for 10 years. You know what I mean? Like that TV ratings just going down across the board because everyone watches on Hulu. So how much do those Hulu numbers affect the decision making there?
That's true. And if there's that like Fox to streaming pipeline, then sure, I don't see why not a Fox show could become, another gigantic hit.
And they're clearly trying to do it because they pretty much bought / invested in Bento Box, and they are now expanding Animation Domination to 2 days a week, and they've greenlit like half a dozen new things that are coming out. There's Housebroken. There's the Dan Harmon NFT show.
Right.
But there's a ton. There's so much that they're like developing to bring over to these 2 Animation Domination days. And I feel like it's because they know The Simpsons realistically can't last 10 more years. Like just logistically based on the ages of the actors. Like you gotta let them sleep, y'all. Like they gotta,
yeah.
Like, I don't know. You hear people talk about Julie Kavner and just kind of like what's been going on with Marge's voice in the past few years and how it's there's a lot more rasp. She sounds a little more tired. It doesn't affect the performance, right? Because Julie Kavner is still Julie Kavner and she's still really great. But just like vocally, like when they try to make Marge, when they write that Marge has to scream, it does kind of sound like it might strain her throat or something like that. And I don't know. Even is she the only one that is kind of like that for though? Like, how does everybody else sound to you? Like, I think everybody else.
I don't notice any major differences in many of the other cast members. Right. I feel like it's all kind of been so gradual over the years that like if there are adjustments and changes in them that it like mostly sounds. It's like I've gotten used to it at this point. But the other thing they just did is they just replaced like Dr. Hibbert's voice. Have you heard the new voice? It's very different.
It is. It's Kevin Michael Richardson.
Yeah, great voice actor.
Right, doing a little twist on because Kevin Michael Richardson has a very specific deep voice that he uses for some characters, and he's doing that for Dr. Hibbert, but not really. It's like an adjustment to that.
Right.
But it's just. For me, I don't know. It's going to take time to get used to. It's just a little too bassy for Hibbert for me. I think that's what it is.
Yeah, it doesn't. It just. I mean, especially after 31 seasons of the character sounding a certain way, right. It's pretty hard to like all of a sudden them to sound real different. But you know, it's not. It's definitely not a bad performance. It's just different. It's just different. Yeah.
He has a good laugh. You hear his Hibbert laugh? It's a pretty.
Yeah,
good
I like the
laugh.
Yeah. It's a pretty good one. Yeah,
the new Carl's good. Did you hear the new Carl?
I haven't heard the new Carl yet. Who do you know who's playing Carl?
I don't know the guy's name, but he's in the first episode of 32.
Nice.
And I thought he did a good job. And the new Cleveland is insane. Like it's
really.
You would think that they're lying to us, and they just put Mike Henry back in the booth. Like
it's like really, that close.
Yeah, it's. I can show you a clip, and you'll just think, "Oh, I thought this one season 15 or something." Nah, it's last week.
That's wild. All right, well, that was a nice little Simpsons voice acting Fox Network tangent.
Yeah.
Let's get into Archer. Look, there's too many cartoons that curse that we want to talk about, so sometimes we're going to do tangents. You all loved the Paddington 2 tangents. We're going to keep them up.
It's one of the best moments on the podcast.
I mean, I think we got to just do a Paddington episode.
We might have to cover Paddington.
I would love to do a Paddington episode.
Man,
just call it cartoons that curse, but with an asterisk. You
know what we need to make is we need to make a Padtreon. and people can pay for it.
There you go.
It's funny because like I was so proud listening to John plug Paddington 2 mercilessly on the podcast, but I also, it should be known that I was one of the people in John's ear for a long time before that, trying to get him to watch those movies.
He was the one who kept telling me it was great, and I kept saying, I don't see how that can be true. I just don't see it. And sure enough, he was right.
And there's also the Nickelodeon Paddington series. I don't think they curse on it, but you know, maybe they do.
Let's dub it with curses and then talk about that.
We'll make it curse.
Yes.
Let's
get Tony Loke to be
Archer,
Paddington.
Mole Hunt.
Yeah, Archer, Mole Hunt. Let's talk about it. All right, so the pilot is about Archer creating a rumor that there's a mole in ISIS so that he can hack into the mainframe and adjust his expense account, which he has been expensing a lot of unnecessary things to the company. Very good premise for the pilot of the show. It also, even just the cold open sets up the character and the relationships really well.
Yeah, that's what I wrote as well.
It's such a funny cold open. It sets up Archer's like attitude as a character brilliantly, and it sets up that weird relationship between him and his mother.
Yeah.
Which 2 minutes long.
Yeah, it's like a really efficient, effective cold open. And like one thing watching through this first season again, I forgot how much of like the undercurrent of the like character development has to do with Archer and his relationship to Mallory. Like there's so much involved with that. And then the other thing feels like the Archer and Lana and Cyril stuff. But like that's there. Honestly, I kept thinking how, I should make a video about Archer and Mallory's relationship. Like that is a ripe relationship to like deep dive into.
Yeah,
absolutely. I'd watch that.
Hell yeah. Good to know. All right, I'm going to do it. Audience of 1.
Yeah. You've got 1 view, baby.
What do you guys think about this episode? Tariq, how are you feeling about Mole Hunt?
This is great. This is a great pilot. This might be I think I do like this a lot more than Rick and Morty's pilot.
Right.
But I just thought this was really great. I love that, like you said, it doesn't waste any time. The cold open establishes Archer and his relationship with his mother like instantly, and you get everything just from the interactions. And then after the cold open and after the intro, there's like this really, really clever scene where Archer's just like walking through the workplace and he keeps running into different all the different coworkers. And it's paced like so well to where you understand like, okay, this is who this is, this is who this is, this is who this is. It's genius. I love it. It's really dope.
Yeah, it's really effective. I know like this is obviously only the third show we've talked about, but like this pilot and Futurama's pilot are both really good examples of like establishing so much about our main character as quickly as possible so that we really understand the character and their thing,
Right.
Yeah, great pilots. Mikey, how do you feel about Mole Hunt?
I mean, I think it stands as one of the best episodes of the entire show.
Hell yeah.
And like I've talking about this cold open, I mean, I counted 12 jokes in the 2 minutes. Like everything is so layered.
That's bonkers.
Like every conversation, like every line, it's like, all right, how do we make this little line that, is over in a blink, like some reference to something that was said 2 lines earlier? It's always like inverting itself. And like, there's always people misunderstanding each other because they're all sort of narcissists and always think that you're talking about what they're thinking about. I'll point out a few of those examples as we go along because it's like one of the most common joke structures in the show.
That's a good point. It does feel like every single one of these characters is a narcissist to a degree. Every single one.
But as far as like this pilot goes, I mean, Archer is a show that I guess later in its run maybe falls a little too in love with the callback jokes. And they're setting up so many of those in this first season and in like the first episode. Like you think of like the black turtleneck joke, and how many times they call that back over the course of the show.
Right.
And I'm sort of just tempted at this point to just list all the jokes that make me laugh out loud in this episode, I mean,
we should definitely
really just pack it in.
I think that this is going to be a great series of I think covering the show on the podcast, there's going to be so much of us just saying our favorite jokes because there's so freaking many good jokes and they're just so good.
It's also just a high wire act in terms of comic timing. I mean, like all these voices are recorded separately. So the rhythm of all the scenes and all the dialogue and all the jokes is completely made in the edit. And they pretty much do an immaculate job. Like no show is better at the comedic, like dramatic pause.
Yes.
I
my favorite one. Sorry, go ahead.
I feel like I know which one you're going to say. The Russian Jewish line.
That's not the one I was going to say, but I do love that one. That one's so good.
Probably the best like long pause joke in the entire show.
I think my favorite one in this one is I'm gonna rub sand in your dead little eyes. Also, I need you to buy sand.
No, dude. And then he goes like, I need you to buy sand. I don't know if they grade it, but course.
Yeah. That's another perfect one.
I do really like what's it? I make Lana stir fry every Friday. You know what we call it? Stir Friday. Huh. That's actually the better one. That being the better option is hilarious to me.
Yeah, that's the thing is like, what did he call Stir Friday?
Right.
I know. I want to know. Did you guys ever see there was this bonus feature on the Archer DVD? John, you said you have the Blu-ray?
Yeah, I was actually going to bring this. I was going to bring this up.
Archosaurus Rex.
Yes.
So basically, what that was, I remember actually being kind of mad because when they were marketing that DVD, they were like, watch the never before seen, the unaired pilot of Archer. And I was like, oh, damn, I got to get that DVD. And it turns out it's just a gag. It's the regular pilot. But instead of Archer, his character model is replaced with like a dinosaur, like a velociraptor.
It's just a full-on velociraptor.
Who only makes dinosaur noises instead of Archer's dialogue. And the rest of the episode is exactly the same. But it's incredible because the jokes still play just because of that timing. Like, especially the Russian Jewish joke. Like that long pause and then a little dinosaur noise and like, I'm the mole, you idiot. Like, it's so good.
I was going to bring this up too. It is one of the most absurd gag special features that's ever been created. They re-rendered the whole episode, replacing Archer with a velociraptor, including, I think, the opening sequence they redid, I think, with him as a velociraptor.
That's right. The credit sequence, which, by the way, that credit sequence, I mean, come on.
It's one of the best.
One of the best.
It's so good. I just love the art style of it. And it's also like, it's not overly complicated. It's just really well executed. You know what I mean? Like, it's such a simple art style, and they were able to use the simplicity to its advantage with those transitions.
And they kept expanding it, adding characters over the seasons. Like I
got to figure out. I'm going to try to
for Pam.
Right. Yeah, because she was only just like a co-star in this season, but now I think she got upgraded later.
That makes a lot of sense.
And then eventually Krieger, Lucky Yates, who appears in this episode but doesn't have lines. He's very slowly becomes a character.
I wrote that down. He like there's like a few episodes where he doesn't talk. Like he just doesn't have any words for a few episodes, and he becomes
part of me likes him better as like in the background, but I think I do appreciate some of his stuff later on.
I think he's worked best in moderation, but he is so funny. We'll talk about there's one of my I don't remember what episode it's in. There's one of my favorite lines is from Krieger this season.
Okay.
But we'll see if I can remember which one it is. Also, one thing I noticed watching this season is just how obviously so many of these adult animated cartoons do flashbacks, and Archers are they're so quick, and they're always related to the situation at hand.
Always.
And it never feels like too much of an aside. It always feels like it adds to whatever they're doing in the current scene. It's like one of the best uses, I think, of the flashback trope / device in any of these shows.
I also wanted to say that, you know, the flashback thing is part of it, but the show is very much, to me, was always in conversation with Arrested Development, which came a few years earlier. Right. Not just because you have Jessica Walter in a very similar type role as Mallory, but you also have Judy Greer playing a secretary with the few screws loose. They
bring in Jeffrey Tambor.
Yeah. You get David Cross eventually. So I always sort of thought of those two shows as being in conversation.
They're also like shows about unhealthy child parent dynamics. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it seems like
and they're shows about rich people.
Right. Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Rich privileged people who can get away with more things than any average person can because of their careers and or money, which is interesting. Both great shows, both really good shows. Man, great pilot. When an episode works replacing the main character with a raptor, you know it's a good episode.
Right, yeah. I will say we talked about it a little before, but I do just want to reiterate that this show is gorgeous, and it definitely finds itself later on in terms of the movement and the animation, right? But it always looks good.
Yeah.
But I noticed like in these earlier episodes, rightfully so, just like any other show, they make a lot of choices that they wouldn't make. I wouldn't say that the animation was an afterthought by any means, but like I think the dialogue was the main focus in the forefront in these earlier ones. You could see it because sometimes like the way like an arm will go up and go down, it's like, oh, they didn't really put the, you know, they would put like a certain twist on it a little later on in the show that I would notice. So like sometimes I would notice the models will break a little bit. But even then, like you said, Johnny, like the blocking and everything like that, like it looks good. It looks like, it's like King of the Hill. You know how King of the Hill just looks like a nicely filmed live action show? Right. Like it's like that in a lot of respects. The one thing that I don't like, and they don't do it later on, they only do it in, I don't know if they do it in the second season, but I remember them doing it here because I remember not liking this as a kid. I really hate the downward shots where you can see him from under the chin. I hate those. And they do them so often here.
There's one that works really well though, and it's in the second to last episode of the season, and it's when he's like banging the secretary or the HR department person at Odin, and so they do the undershot, and it's specifically to hide what he's doing. It's pretty good. To hide what he's doing, so it's like pretty good blocking. But yeah, it is. They do that shot a lot.
They do it a lot here, and I remember as a kid because I watched these in order when they came out, and I was like, "What the fuck are they doing? Like, why do they keep doing that?" Right. But otherwise, that's a stupid complaint. Otherwise, it's just a gorgeous show.
Yeah, it's a really cool art style, and it's like, and it's, even though it feels a little stiff in this first season, it's like all forgiven because the show is so driven by the dialogue, and it still looks good, even though it's like not particularly dynamic animation.
Exactly.
Yeah, good stuff. You guys, any other thoughts on Mole Hunt before we move on to 102?
I wrote something that so this is when I first started watching. Obviously, this is the first episode. I don't know if I agree with this by the last episode, but I'll just read off the exact thing I wrote. I said, "It's hilarious to hear Jerry's voice come out of a character who doesn't suck with this new context."
Yeah, but he does.
Zero kind of does suck, though.
Yeah, he does. I didn't realize. I forgot Zero sucks.
I was thinking that too. Is so funny because we just watched Rick and Morty, and I was like, oh yeah, I forgot that this was like this was before Rick and Morty. Like I knew him as Cyril way before Jerry.
I did too. Yeah.
And I kind of forgot about Cyril. It all comes back as soon as you start watching again.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah,
they're so distinct to me.
Totally,
like,
they're so.
That's another thing. Yeah,
I wasn't thinking about Jerry really.
Yeah.
Archer and Bob are like that too. Like I was watching it, and I'm like, I just don't hear Bob. Like, and I don't know how. I don't hear Bob, and I don't hear McGurk either. You know what I mean?
I don't either. Yeah.
He's not doing anything.
It's
we're
just
have
John
that
Benjamin's
crossover
voice.
Episode too.
That's right. We'll get to that in season.
What is that?
4.
Season 4?
I think that's season 4. Yeah, the first one is season 4, which is really fun. I wish they had done more with it. Have you guys ever seen? Right. I know Tariq's seen it. Mikey, have you ever seen? There's an animator who he used Bob's Burgers footage and animated his own versions of the Archer characters in the Bob's Burgers style and inserted them into Bob's Burgers and used dialogue from Archer to make a short Bob's Burgers Archer crossover in the Bob's Burgers animation style. And
that sounds cool.
Seamless. Like, and I think he got a job on Bob's Burgers because of how good it was. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. It's cool. Really awesome. Highly recommend checking that out to you and anyone listening who hasn't seen that. That is really, really cool. All right, should we go on to 102?
Let's do it.
Wait, let me see. Are there any jokes that I want to reference?
Oh yeah, run off some jokes
because there's so many jokes.
That's how you get Ans's classic.
That's so good.
One of the ones I really like is when he goes and talks to Cheryl, and she's like, "You stood me up. Like, what happened?" And he's like, "Oh, did you see Brian's song? Same thing pretty much happened. I helped a guy with cancer.
I helped a guy with cancer." It's also in that delivery, like the way he's just like,
yeah,
it's like the pause.
His like voice cracks when he says it.
Yeah.
Helped a guy with cancer. I also had to look up because there was a joke I never understood. Is when he would say Johnny Bench called.
Oh yeah, I didn't get that joke either.
Means?
No, I had no idea.
So I looked it up. I looked it up on like Urban Dictionary, and this is dirty. It's a way to infer that a woman has an old, worn-out vagina. The full phrase is Johnny Bench called. He wants his catcher's mitt back because Johnny Bench was a baseball player. So it was like when he says it to Mallory, he says Johnny Bench called.
Such an interesting joke to call back a couple times in an episode and expect people to know that reference.
Expect people to know it. Another one that I didn't know back when it originally aired is when he says, "Try the diner. Obviously, you're into Greek." Get it?
I don't get it.
So Greek refers to anal.
I didn't know that.
What the
I had no idea.
These are deep cuts on Archer. Yeah. I mean, I don't.
I guess so.
It's like I'd watch it and I just go like, yeah, I guess this show's smarter than me. It sounds funny.
And honestly, I guess that it's obvious that you're into Greek joke is an example of a joke that I like involuntarily laugh at just from the timing. Like the timing is so good in that joke, even though I don't get what that means, but it's funny because Archer's timing is perfect.
And the whole ping pong paddle fetish is hilarious to me too,
dude. Yeah. Especially when they start explaining it, like when they explain why that happens, it's really funny.
Also, notice that there's a.
I was just gonna say the cut away with the dog with the pug is really funny.
Yeah.
There's a receptionist who's not a character in the show going forward. Remember, like when he walks into ISIS and she's like, "Swear to God, Mr. Archer, I got HR on speed dial."
That's
never comes back. She's in the second episode with no lines. She like gives him a glare, but then she's just never returns.
Right. Yeah, they just focus
unless it's like season 11. Maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah, maybe they're back. We'll find out. We'll find out as we go through this whole show. All right, Training Day. 102 Training Day. This is the episode where Mallory forces Archer to train Cyril as a field agent, which is a really good premise for a second episode. It's really good. I really like this one because it puts Archer and Cyril's weird rivalry at the forefront, and also Cyril and Lana's problematic relationship at the forefront, and also the fact that Cyril and Lana, like through Cyril and Lana's relationship, we learn so much about Archer and how he fucked up Lana's insecurities about relationships through their relationship. It's just like really smart. It's a really smart episode premise to like reveal all of this stuff about these characters pretty effectively. Mikey, how do you feel about Training Day?
I mean, I love it. I truly don't dislike any of these episodes in the first season. Right. I don't think.
Me neither.
While it's not one of my favorites. I mean, there's so much good stuff in it. Like I think the car chase is so good and it's so tastefully done, like on its low budget. Like there's one shot where it's like through the rear view mirror and it's on Archer and like the car is shooting at them and then the mirror gets shot and it flips over to Cyril.
Oh yeah,
that shot was so pretty mind blowing to me. Like I love that shit. And I like that this one continues to be about, like office stuff, and you get like there's more Archer and Woodhouse and Archer's apartment. So it does kind of take it to slightly new places. And it's just packed full of great jokes. Yeah, no doubt. I love Lana tracking down the loose threads of Cyril's lies. Like, Scatterbrain Jane. Yeah, Scatterbrain Jane. Hey, God. Jane. Getting a snack. so funny. So getting a tampon. Yeah. Also,
Aisha Tyler as Lana is just, she's so good.
She's great.
Such a great
Incredible
performance.
I mean, career best work from her.
Yeah.
And she works a lot.
She does work a lot. Lana is such a good character, and she's so funny. Yeah, Jeff,
she has
one of my favorites.
She has one of my favorite reads in this whole episode. In the I think that's the cold open where like it's pretty obvious that she like finds Archer attractive, and Cyril's like, Lana. She's like, huh? What's up, buddy?
Yeah.
Hey, what's up, buddy? There was one, I guess we missed it. She has so many good deliveries like that. This was actually in the previous episode, but it was like when she gets the call that someone broke into ISIS and she has to go, and then Cyril's like, but it's Stir Friday, and she goes, hooray.
God, she really is so good, and just like her signature, yup, is like, it's
yeah. I love that too.
Yeah,
I love that
and just
too.
the amount of times people tell each other to shut up in this show, just constantly telling people to shut up.
That's true.
I do
cold
really.
Open, though. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
I
I was just my bad. I was just gonna say up and away like shit. I was just gonna say that I do really, like I said, I do really love Lana. I do think it's worth pointing out that even though I know, because I've seen more of the show afterwards, I do think it's worth pointing out that early on Lana kind of falls into that angry black woman trope that is kind of normal, but I'm saying that like maybe as somebody who hasn't seen the rest of the show, as somebody who has seen the rest of the show, you know that Lana has more nuance, and like this is just the first season and everything like that. But I did think it was kind of worth noting out, because I was watching it, I'm like, they do kind of in these first few ones, her only emotion is angry for a while.
That's fair.
Yeah,
and it's funny, but you know, like she does.
It's also surrounded by so many idiots that it feels kind of justified. You know what I mean?
Right. That's true.
But that is true and important to point out. But yeah, it does, like, obviously Lana is like a huge part of the show for all 11 seasons, and there's like a lot to her character, which is good.
Right.
Good that they didn't just keep doing that for 11 years. What,
I love that the cold open of this episode like really illustrates Archer's character in terms of being like a fool who kind of stumbles into saving the day, you know?
Yeah.
Like he was not aware of what was going on, and yet he still emerges like the super spy who saves the world, you know?
Exactly.
Right.
He is like, on paper, completely incompetent, but he just does everything perfectly. Like even when he's wasted, he just gets it all done.
Is he ever not wasted?
Fair. Yeah, maybe not. One of my favorite moments is when Archer's training Cyril, and he slingshots ice at him, and he pulls the call girl over.
Right. Yeah.
I love that he's like, yeah, Cyril. Like that was the right move.
That was totally ninja.
I like that she got mad at Archer and not Cyril though. Like I was waiting for her to flip on Cyril.
Oh man. And then I like how like Woodhouse fetches the rug as though that has happened before. Like, fetch a rug.
Fetch a rug, sir. There's some great jokes in this one. A couple that I wrote down. When Cyril's like, "Do I get to learn karate?" He's like, "Karate, the Dane Cook of martial arts."
Oh, I wrote that too. That's so funny. That's so funny. I wrote that down too.
Oh
God,
man, and this
so
is a good Lana one too, which is a lot. But it's at the end of the episode when of course she's like super mad at Cyril, and in order to make it up to her, he has to go into the the store run by the nice Korean lady and get the nastiest, bare-backinest, hard-dickinest, ball-slappiest interracial porno in there.
Yeah. It's such a good delivery, and I love all of those adjectives. Ball slappiest is an incredible.
That's funny.
way to describe it.
I think they bring it back later. I think they bring it back in another episode.
I think they do
ball
too.
slappy sex.
God, so good. This episode also has one of my favorite final beat jokes, which, like, obviously we didn't even talk about that yet, but how perfect for at least these first 2 seasons. The final beat jokes are always so fucking funny, where you're just laughing into the credits. And this one is afterwards when what's her face wakes back up and steals Archer's car, and he's talking about something else, and she goes, "Oh no, my rug!" It's so good. Oh man,
this one, Mallory has she says something. It's like, okay, so this is one thing I noticed while watching. It's like, I didn't, obviously as a kid I probably wouldn't pick up on it, but I didn't realize that Mallory's like a racist, and there's like a lot of stuff like that in this episode. She says immigrants drive around listening to raps and shooting all the jobs. I don't know what the hell that means.
And they call that back at least one more time in season 2. The whole like immigrants, like she has like a new line after that.
What was it in this one where she says something so nonsensically racist where Archer just laughs and goes, "I'm gonna let you think about the logic there for a minute." Like, he just laughs at
it was like why she changes the labels on her medicine.
Oh yeah, on her medicine
because the
so that the help doesn't steal it, and they can't, and also that they can't read English. Yeah. Oh, so ridiculous. You guys got any other jokes or thoughts on Training Day before we move on?
Call the kettle black, and did she just call me? Just pull the race card on me?
Yeah,
that was funny.
Oh man,
I do think the Archer Mallory stuff is really interesting, and this is the first instance. This episode has the first instance that shows us that like Woodhouse practically raised Archer,
right?
And yeah, it's like this is the first like I think there's like a flashback or something like that to it in this one that indicates that. But I thought that was worth pointing out.
Yeah, this first season does a lot of like short but important flashbacks showcasing like Archer's pretty sad childhood, and the fact like he gets shipped off to boarding school in kindergarten. You know, it's pretty fucked up. Yeah. All right, well, let's move on to 103, diversity hire. This is the one where ISIS hires a new agent because they've lost a bunch of agents to death, and they need to meet diversity requirements. So they hire Conway Stern, who is black and Jewish. One of my biggest laughs in the season, the scene is really funny, but it's after the locker room scene, when Archer goes to complain to Pam about it, and he says, "He touched my penis with his penis." It's so funny. This is a really funny episode. What do you guys think about this one?
I like this one a lot.
Yeah.
This is one of my favorite ones of the season.
Okay.
I do like that. I thought it was funny that I think that was Mallory that calls Lana blackish. I thought that was funny as fuck.
Yeah.
And when Conway when Archer's trying to think of an insult, and Conway says, "You could have just said Sammy Davis Jr."
Yeah.
That's crazy. Sammy Davis Jr. is crazy.
That's a good recurring gag where he thinks of the better burns on himself than the people who he's like he's
I love it. I mean, that's like it's playing on the James Bond thing, and like it's sort of like the postmodern twist on it, where they're constantly calling out that they have to make a joke about something. Like even Lana in this episode is like, "I had something for this," or whatever. And then he's like, "Was it, you don't get off the hook this easy?"
Right. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
And then Archer's like, "Yeah, he's good at those."
It's like it's a part of the job description of being a spy in this world. It's like you have to have good one-liners. It's a whole part of it. Also, Cheryl is so fucking funny in this episode.
Oh my God.
She's incredible.
Another instance of the perfect pause, which is a problem or a blessing.
Blessing, yeah.
So good.
A problem.
So good. Oh man. Cheryl is an insane character. She's so funny, but obviously she's like she's got some problems. But that last beat is so funny too, when she's like holds up the thing that looks like a pregnancy test. And it's like a blue pen with a sticker on it or something.
Yeah.
So
I like the beat even before that when after when Conway is like, I don't know where they are, what closet that is or whatever. He's walking out and she just says, "Oh my God, I hope I'm pregnant." Like, that's crazy.
And then she wants to take a pregnancy test, but she's doing it online. She's taking
Right.
the test online.
I want to know right now.
That's also another funny thing, though, is like this show clearly takes place in modern day. They have the internet, but all of the devices and things they use are old school looking, which I love aesthetically. I love it aesthetically.
It is sort of a running gag where it sort of takes place out of time, because like the KGB exists and it's like such a 60s vibe, but then they'll have, obviously newer technology sometimes. I guess it's sort of the like, never knowing where Springfield is like never knowing when Archer takes place.
Right.
True. Yeah. And it's like, even when they have newer technology that can do like modern things, it's coming out of devices that look old school. They just look like old school spy devices. You have a lot of like the radar screens, the old graphical looking radar screen type of stuff. Yeah, it's cool though, but it's like such a good aesthetic for the show. I love that vibe for it. Even like all the cars and stuff look old school.
Yeah.
It's pretty great. I also just love at the end, after he gets his hand pulled off and he's flying away on the helicopter, he goes, "You haven't seen the last of Conway Stern, which is not my real name."
Dude, Conway is rad. Like, he's awesome. Like,
he's so cool.
And I can't that's really stupid of me. Okay. I wrote in my notes, I can't remember if we see him again, but he's in our theme song, so we obviously see him again.
That's right. I think that's like season 7 or something.
It's not until like way later, because I remember like watching seasons 2 and 3 and being like, they really should bring back Conway. They left that wide open. But I guess that's sort of common, where they'll let the villains get away, and it's like maybe they'll come back. Maybe.
But then you have characters like Barry, who comes back so much over the first few seasons, where it's like, it's kind of surprising.
I love Barry.
You love Barry. Barry's great.
I love him. Can't wait to talk about Barry.
I know. What's his first episode again? He's in
Job Offer.
Is that his first one?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
I think so.
Great episode. All right. You guys have any other thoughts on Diversity Hire before we move on? Any good jokes? Any other thoughts on?
I got 2 things. Number one is the first Danger Zone.
First Danger Zone. I wrote that down too.
Yeah.
Right.
Which honestly, I mean, this is spoilers for later, but like, I love when that pays off in season 5, because they have the actual, like, they do like a bluegrass cover in Archer Vice of Danger Zone.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah, it's so good.
Don't they get Kenny Loggins on the show?
I think they literally have Kenny Loggins do it. Yeah, it's bonkers.
That's pretty good.
I also just want to mention the kind of action parts of this episode, which are done pretty cheaply but pretty cool. Like when Archer is meeting the guy, and then it cuts back up to Conway shooting the assassins. The way it just like cuts back to Conway and then back to Archer, and they're all dead around him. It avoids the actual violence. You know?
Which is really smart. And it's really well done, really well framed. I also love how fucking mad Archer is that his shirt got blood all over it in that scene. He doesn't care about any other aspect of that. He doesn't care those people are dead.
Dude, that's another example there of him just being a narcissist. Like, even when I can't even remember what Conway says, but something related to the mission, and that like before it's too like, oh, I think he says grab the thing before it's too late, and then Archer's like, it's already too late, it's soaked into the fibers or whatever. Like he's still talking.
Yeah. That's so good. All right, we should move on to 104 unless you guys got any last thoughts.
Wait, this last joke that I thought was hilarious, just because I've never heard it before. When Lana is going to Mallory about Conway, and she like calls her racist and stuff like that, and Lana says, "I'm black," and she's like, "I'll put it back in the deck." I've never heard that before. I've never heard "put it back in the deck" before. I love that.
It works so well because somebody already like referenced the race card specifically as like an expression. So like, oh, deck. Put it back in the deck.
Put it
that's
back.
Such a like, and that's Mallory, right? Mallory delivering that. Yeah. That's such a like Jessica Walter, rest in peace. One of the
man, it sunk in mid-season. I was like, fuck, like I completely forgot for a second. Like,
God. She is just like legend, an absolute legend. Like I mean, obviously she's done so much of her career, but for me growing up, it was Arrested Development and this, and both shows she gives just such incredible comedic performances. Like it feels like every line, no matter how funny, is made funnier by Jessica Walter. She is like that freaking good. Yeah, absolutely. And it's a shame. I'm very curious because I heard that they maybe had finished recording season 12 already, so we might get one final season of Mallory before we don't have any more. But I'm curious how they'll handle it in show. It feels like if they keep doing the show, they would probably kill her in universe. I feel like that would make sense for.
I can't see them not doing that. Like,
right?
That would have to
be
like,
tough.
I mean, you could do some interesting stuff with Archer if you do that.
Oh yeah,
like his character.
For sure.
Yeah, I don't even know where all the characters are at by now. So
right,
so because I know like season 7, like Cyril is in charge. You know,
right? Because he's all of a sudden a great agent, right? Like he's like,
well, it's like well because they lose the spy agency, and then they
became private investigators,
and it's the Figgis agency.
That's right. And we haven't even talked about ISIS. We haven't even talked about the fact that
I know the ISIS of it all. That they're called
nuts.
ISIS. They constantly say ISIS.
Yeah, and it was probably 4 or 5 seasons in. Was it like in season 4 where they finally were like,
maybe
when like ISIS became a thing in real life, and they were like, well, we can't use that anymore, and they make a big deal out of like pulling down the ISIS signs and carrying them out.
Yeah,
of the
it's like in the background, somebody's like taking it out.
Yeah. But that is wild.
ISIS is a cool name that
is a
was
cool
co-opted
name
by uncool people.
Yeah,
I don't know if it's unpopular to say, but I'm going to say it. ISIS is not cool. Cool name.
There we go.
Wow. Damn it. Now our podcast is pissing off ISIS now. We piss off so many people. You're right. ISIS sucks. Fuck ISIS.
Oh my God.
All right.
I feel him though. Sorry.
All right. Did we move on to 104? Killing Utne. Is that his name? Utne?
I think so.
Yeah.
Mallory hosts a dinner party in an effort to secure a new weapons contract from a what is he, like a UN chairman or something like that?
Yeah.
This my favorite part of this episode is kind of a bottle episode. It all pretty much takes place in one place. I guess there's a couple rooms, a couple things going on, but I really like the rival assassins. I feel like I like that they gave them such weird specific quirks. Like obviously she was pretending to be pregnant for the role, but like she's so into the pretending to be pregnant thing.
Yeah, my condition.
What do you guys think about this one? Tariq, what do you think about this episode?
Yeah, like I said before, there's an episode of the season that I don't like, and I do really like this one. I do remember one thing that I noticed while watching is that this is the episode that made me realize it. Archer has a lot of that Bender-esque insecurity going on with him in his characterization, and just like him pulling up and then everybody's kind of like together and like Woodhouse is even with somebody and he's like, what the like, all right, I gotta go do something now. Like,
true. And yeah, he's obviously, we talked about it, been very narcissistic. And then like when he gets when his date shows up and she's invested in Utne instead of him, he's so insecure about it the whole time. He's so jealous. Yeah.
I love that this is like a classic like TV trope premise, you know, like the dinner party, right?
Right.
The dinner party where everything goes wrong, but it has that whole spy twist where there's like the assassins who are supposed to fake the assassination, but they're real assassins, and so it's like twisty.
Right.
I really enjoy that about this episode. We get our first Krieger line in this one, where he's talking about his sex robot or whatever that he made, and then he's like, and the best part is that it's learning.
It's learning. Krieger is so funny. Was there a subplot happening with other characters elsewhere, or is that or was he at the party, or was this just a different party episode?
I didn't write it down.
I didn't either,
but I assume there was some kind of B story.
Yeah,
but everyone was there, I guess.
Was Krieger at the party?
Maybe not. Maybe it was before the party.
Yeah, maybe it was before, because they talk about the plan and the party before they go to the party. So maybe it was in the office before that.
Oh, I just realized while we're talking about Krieger, I just realized what I have in my notes. I wrote Fisty Roboto.
That's
Fister,
part of that
Fister
line.
Roboto. Fister Roboto.
I call it Fister Roboto.
That's crazy as hell.
Krieger is so funny. The other thing I noticed in this episode, so the end of the episode, after obviously Utne dies, they didn't want that to happen, and then they go to pin it on Trudy Beekman, which I always laugh about. Beekman. I always laugh about the Mallory Trudy Beekman rivalry, because again, it feels a lot like the Arrested Development. What's her name? Arrested Development.
Lucille too.
Lucille, and so in Arrested Development, Tariq, if you haven't seen it, Lucille, who is Jessica Walter's character, she has a rivalry with another person named Lucille, who's played by Liza Minnelli, and which is great. But like it's very similar vibes where like she's got this ongoing like feud with Lucille too. She very much resents Lucille too, and it feels a ton like this whole ongoing Trudy Beekman thing.
I mean, right down to her like yelling through the walls. I don't think we never meet her, but she's referenced in several episodes.
That's so funny.
I remember seeing like a Q&A with Adam Reed where someone specifically, I mean, I guess credit to just a fan of the show who said like, if Trudy Beekman were to ever show up, you should have Liza Minnelli voice her.
Yeah.
And Adam Reed's response was like, yes, that's been long in the works before this moment right now. That's such a good idea.
I love that. That's so good. Oh, man.
And also, like, the ending, because pinning it on Trudy Beekman, that whole final scene we see through the crack of her door where we don't even see any of the characters, which is another just, like, probably a budget thing.
I specifically wrote that down, and it's also though like the way they cut all the dialogue and then they did minimal animation. Like when they start the fire, you see the fire flashing through the crack. So like there's stuff happening in there, but like that scene works even without seeing anything. Like you feel like you can see everything that's going on, even though you're not seeing a single thing. And that must have saved a bunch of time and money for that final sequence, but it worked really well. It's really
but that's
really
the point,
impressive.
right? Like when you do bottle episodes is to kind of save resources,
right?
You know what I mean, like do it faster. So yeah, they definitely took advantage of that there with that visual.
No doubt. You guys got any other jokes or thoughts on Killing Utne before we go into Honeypot?
One joke I really like is when Archer's going, help, and they're like, what's wrong? And he's like, no, I was addressing you as help.
Yeah.
That's so Archer. I love that. Oh man.
So did everybody just fall for a game of Russian roulette with a full clip? Like, is that what that joke is supposed to be? Where everybody's just kind of shot in the head? He was like, I didn't think they would actually fall for that.
I don't
which
know.
part was that?
It's I don't remember the lead into the cutaway, but it was something along the lines of how Archer saves the day all of the time by accident. and
Oh, right.
and it's just this shot of just a bunch of people. There's like a round table, and they're all just like they're all shot in the head, and they're just sitting down, like they're all sitting down, and they're all like faced on the table. Then the camera spins around, and you see Archer with the gun. He's like, I didn't think they would fall for that. It's like, so did he think that they were playing? Did they think they were playing Russian roulette,
Right.
and it was just a bullet every time? Like,
yeah, I mean, I'm almost like, is the joke that there were like more people at the table than there were bullets in the gun or something?
Right.
right.
You know?
Right.
But
That's
why,
so funny.
if it was a full clip, why would they all be shooting themselves?
Right.
That's what.
Right,
That's what I was.
exactly.
That's
Why
what
would
I'm
they
like.
keep
What are they
going?
doing?
I mean, man, that gag just flew right by me. I have to like watch it again.
That's the thing. The show is so quick. Like the jokes are so fast that like I feel like I could rewatch this season again tomorrow and catch tons of new stuff that I missed this time. Because you're probably laughing over jokes because they're so tight.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I
good.
rewatched a couple of these episodes actually.
Nice, rewarding on rewatch.
Mm-hmm.
Let's move on to 105 Honeypot, which is a really very funny episode. It's one where Archer runs a honeypot operation on a Cuban agent, which turns out to be to retrieve his mother's sex tape from blackmailers. Man, I think so. One of the things that I love about this episode is that there are like 3 new guest characters that are great in Ramon and then Charles and Rudy, played by Thomas Lennon and Ben Garrett, who are all
and Ramon
all
is played
hilarious.
by Ramon is played by Ron Perlman, which
right.
is
And
crazy.
I didn't know that. You can't tell.
You can't hear him. Yeah, I don't hear him in that at all.
It's wild. What a crazy guest cast for like the 5th episode of Archer. That's pretty wild. Thomas Lennon and Ben Garrett are obviously so funny. They're like great improvisers and comedic actors. They were on Reno 911 and they write a bunch of movies together, make a great living writing family films. They wrote all of the Night at the Museum movies together.
Okay.
It's really weird how they're like their comedy stuff is so good and it's like a totally different tier of quality for like the stuff that they write, the like really like junky studio family films that they put out constantly.
Yeah, and it's very much though like it's a conscious thing. It's like we specifically write these family movies that will appeal to a broad audience that like studios will put out and a bunch of people will go see over holidays and shit like that, and they've like
they wrote
really
a really
figured
great
it out.
Screenwriting book.
Yeah, what is it called? How to write movies for fun and profit, but with fun crossed out.
Writing movies for fun and profit. Yeah, I have it up there.
Nice.
I'm not going to plug it because they didn't pay me.
But if you want to write movies for profit, check it out. But yeah, they're really, really smart dudes, really funny dudes. Obviously, Reno 911 is a very funny show, and they give great performances in it. And Thomas Lennon has like a legendary voice, and he just pops up in everything. Like his voice, I dare you to name a cartoon that he hasn't been in. Like I'm sure he's just been in everything in some guest role.
Yeah.
But man, this is a fun episode. I like the gay stereotype Archer is so ridiculous.
I love that they have the 2 guys just tell them you're being a cartoon character. Like this is unrealistic.
Yeah, it's like Archer's perceptions of what being gay is are so wrong that he is just he's just totally completely embarrassing himself.
It's one of the things I love so much about this episode is that I mean, the thing about Archer, I mean, obviously it's a show about a guy who's like a misogynist and a homophobe and just like the worst. And like, I do think sometimes the show is a little too comfortable with like casual gay panic humor. And like this episode like really interrogates his homophobia. And I also think going beyond this episode that Archer like really, you see so much growth and evolution on that issue specifically. Like take like Pam, like there's so much humor in this first season about how Pam has sort of closeted feelings for Lana, or she's,
that's kind of all she is for a good portion of it.
Right.
Yeah. And eventually she just becomes this like like fully pansexual character, and even in Dreamland season 8, she plays a male character. Pansexual. But she plays a male character in Dreamland, and the show just, doesn't make a thing about it, and then also we get our first appearance from Ray Gillette, voiced by Adam Reed, who becomes a main character on the show. And
he probably still shows up to play Ray, I would imagine, even though he's not writing the show anymore.
Yeah, maybe so. Good question.
Yeah.
But I do think specifically on its relationship to LGBTQ issues, like the show, there's a lot of growth over the seasons. But this is a fun start to sort of just call it out. I mean, it does still sort of flaunt some stereotypes while it's commenting on them. But I really appreciate like the final scenes with Archer and Ramon.
Dude, they're so good. Yeah.
No, I love all that stuff.
Funny as hell.
The payoff of Archer and Ramon's like friendship at the end and like their chemistry and their dynamic is so good, because like obviously the whole episode Archer's just being completely embarrassing to the point where Ramon's like, go away, you're very embarrassing. And
I love that Archer is basically trying to, at first he's seducing him for the mission, but then pretty quickly he's seducing him because of his like damaged ego that he's been rejected,
he's so insecure that this guy doesn't want to sleep with him that he actually gets deeply into the idea of seducing him. he's like I need to do this to prove I can do it. It's great. And and then like obviously I fucking love Charles and Rudy hanging out with Woodhouse and like buying him new clothes and everything.
Good. It's rad,
and the cutaway of Archer throwing all Woodhouse's clothes off of the balcony.
Oh, dude, and the fact that they do that again when it's like, just treat them how you treat women, and then it cuts to Archer doing that to Cheryl.
It's perfect because it's both a callback and it enlightens like that exact scene. Like I said earlier with how the cutaways are always add to the moment at hand, but this is an instance of like that perfect Archer writing where it's not only adding to that moment at hand, but it's a funny beat and a callback. It's just so efficient. The show's so efficient. Oh, so good.
I do love I guess I'm not gonna say I guess it is 1000% a subplot. The fuck, marry, kill thing where they're on the computer, Lana is doing the thing she's trying to sell Zero. Yeah, I think that's funny. I think it's funny because it's such like a non-thing in comparison to what's going on with Archer. Right. But it's really funny.
It's such a small, that's like the example of like the office plot. You know what I mean? Like what are we getting at the office? And my favorite joke in that is when Lana's going through and she goes, "Oh, kill." And Pam goes, "Well, thanks a lot."
She's like, it's a bad picture, Pam. I gotta say, like, a thing that's like kind of disturbing is the whole thing with Krieger and Danny the intern.
Oh my god, yes. Is that this one?
Yeah. Where he like Danny the intern like experimental pills that make him gay and like clearly like fucking him up, and then Krieger like offers it to other people. It's like, just means more for me and Danny, and he's like popping the pills himself.
Yeah, and there's like it's all in the background because there's that opening scene, and then the next time you see him is like you just see Danny running through the office and Krieger chasing him.
Yes,
and then the next time you see him is him crying over his dead body.
Yes, I forgot about that. Yeah, that's nuts.
Oh god,
I think Krieger has some great stuff in this one, like when they're talking about like setting up cameras in her in Mallory's condo or whatever, and it's like the same setup I have in my van, and then Archer's like, Jesus, you still taping bum fights? He's like, no, now I'm into something darker. It's a really good one.
I love how often the show alludes to fucked up stuff without outright saying fucked up stuff. You know what I mean? Like it's like they like leaving that up to the imagination is so much funnier than him like saying something horribly fucked up. You know?
Absolutely.
And they do that. Like it's kind of the same it's almost the same sensation as like when the Stir Friday joke. Like, what the fuck was Stir Friday? It's fun. It's almost funnier just knowing that he had something else that wasn't Stir Friday. Man. I also love this is another final joke beat that I love is so Ramon, so like they blow up his mom's apartment and then he's like, but the bedroom was untouched, and Ramon thinks he's like propositioning him.
I'm listening.
And he goes, and then Archer just starts laughing, goes, Woodhouse, he's still tied up, probably dehydrated. And they just cut away. That's so fucking terrible, but
yeah, it's awful. He treats him so bad.
John Benjamin's delivery of like choking down laughter as he says probably dehydrated is such a good Oh god.
Woodhouse actually has a really great line delivery earlier in the episode when Mallory and Archer are sitting like on the patio, like, and she's giving him the mission or whatever. And then Woodhouse comes in and is like, "Sir, the stolen lemur bit one of your prostitutes in the face, and she says she can't go to hospital because she's, quote, tripping balls."
Woodhouse is the best. He is. I
love Woodhouse. Also R.I.P.
He's a great. Oh yeah.
Really?
Yeah. He passed away, and he still like appeared in the show afterwards, but he just wouldn't have lines, I guess.
Right. He's such a good character, but also just like a good man. he's such a good man.
Right.
He's loyal.
Yeah, he raised Archer, and he's like willing to do anything for him, even though Archer's the fucking worst.
The worst.
Yeah.
Which episode is? I don't remember which one it is, but he's like, because I don't think I wrote it down. So the lemurs got into the pudding cup, sir. Yeah, like I said they would.
Yeah, that was this one.
Said they would.
I was like, I think the first time we see Archer in this episode is him, like he's got like the catcher's mask on and like the ping pong paddle, and he's in a towel, and he comes out of his room and he's like, "Woodhouse, we got any lube?" At this point, even olive oil will help me get that drawer unstuck. Because Mallory walked in.
Right. Oh god, it's so good. Man, all right. Do you guys have any other thoughts on Honeypot before we move on to 106?
No, it's a good one though. I like this one a lot.
I could read so many more jokes, but you know,
give us one more. Give us one more.
Yeah, let's do it.
Your favorite jokes.
One more that I like. Well, Carol's fantasy about being murdered is incredible.
Oh my god!
I didn't write down the line, but
it's like the spit dripping onto your popped out eyeball.
Yeah, so good.
It's so fucked up.
Like earlier, she's like, "I love the idea of being murdered. It's so intimate."
Oh god. All right. 106 is it's called Skorpio. This is the one where Archer has to go rescue Lana from an arms dealer while Cyril gets real insecure about Lana and Archer possibly getting back together. I love how Cheryl and Pam just endlessly torture Cyril about Lana and Archer in this episode. It's so funny. Good. It's like, I mean, it's horrible. Like, you know, you start to feel kind of bad for Cyril in this episode, but God, is it funny? It's so funny. I also like the idea that I think that's a funny idea that Lana used the undercover op as an opportunity to take a vacation. That's really smart. That's just a funny, smart idea. It's really good. Mikey, what do you think about Skorpio?
I think this episode is really great. I think it's the most technically impressive episode so far because you got like the big shootout at the end,
right?
Which I think is classic Archer, where they're just like bickering about their, you know, regular human stuff while they're murdering a bunch of people, and it's like really violent. I like that there's a lot of references to Thunderball, the Sean Connery James Bond movie that's maybe a little underrated, but like the underwater diving stuff, the underwater action.
And you get a lot of good stuff with Mallory in this one. Like you learn a lot. You learn about why Archer has his ping pong paddle fetish. It's because he used to get beat with a wooden spoon. Which is so specific. That's so really specific. I like that Archer Mallory lore, and then obviously like the big Cyril Cheryl thing. Like Cyril gets so insecure about Lana and Archer that he just bangs Cheryl.
So this is this is when I like, because insecurity wasn't part of Cyril's character until this episode. Before, he was just always really submissive or gullible. Right. So for at least, because like I said earlier, how I thought Cyril was a good guy, but by the end of the season, I'm like, oh no, he actually kind of sucks. So before, it had kind of seemed like to me that he was manipulated because of his surroundings to be insecure. He was told he should be insecure, and that's what made him insecure. That's how I read it here.
Yeah, it's Cheryl and Pam. They just tortured him about it until he gave in. It's pretty.
It's also like Lana has her intimacy issues, you know, probably because of Archer, and so like it's bad to have like the Cyril clinginess with the Lana, you know, needing the distance. You know, it's just a recipe for disaster, right? They're definitely not right for each other.
Yeah, they pretty much outright say that Lana's intimacy issues are because of Archer in the first one, and they do that. They do that cutaway when they're in bed together, and she's like, "You want to watch some porn?" And then his mom calls, and it's like, "No, put it on. I can do both."
What?
It's also interracial porn. She's into white guys, I guess.
I guess
really
that is
the interracial.
I guess that is established multiple times. So yeah, I also love, you brought up the underwater fight, which is really cool. I like that visual, but I also love the gag that Cyril calls him while he's in the middle of the fight, and the framing is just his face, so you can't tell that he's fighting 4 people underwater while he's talking to Cyril. And then he's like, I can't talk right now, and they cut back, he's fighting 4 people. It's so good. Man. And then this starts to lay the groundwork for like the ongoing who is Archer's dad mystery? Is this with
yes,
what's the space? Yeah,
it is
the KGB.
Right. Yeah,
with how she disappeared for 9 months and whatnot.
Which because they just kind of say that and they move on. But like when I heard that, I was like, wait, what the fuck? Like, that is very specific.
Right. Yeah. Which, do they ever like actually answer that? I know it's like in the season finale this season, it like is the big it's like part of the plot of the season finale, but do they ever answer it in the show?
There is a flashback with Archer's dad. I can't remember if it's like season 3 or 4, but he I guess that's something we'll get to later on.
Yeah,
so
we'll get to it.
I don't even want to spoil it, but the person who voices his dad is somebody that we both love, John.
Oh. That could be a number of people, but I have a feeling.
Somebody that you and I specifically both love.
Who we will talk about a couple times on this podcast, probably.
Yeah.
Cool. Actually, we've already talked about, right? I brought him up.
Yes, we have.
Yes,
you remember.
I remember.
Okay.
I remember. No spoilers. But they should put that guy in Paddington.
Now I'm even more confused. Okay.
He would be amazing in Paddington.
He would be great. We'll talk about him later, Tariq. All right, let's move on. Unless you guys got more jokes you want to talk about from Skorpio. Anything else from Skorpio?
I had this joke. What's Buddy's name again? I don't want to say the wrong name. Is it Kruger?
Krieger.
Krieger. All right. He says, every word of that sentence arouses me. And Pam says, I am very open to that.
Or it was like every single noun and verb in that sentence totally arouses me. He also had that line where he's in like, he like built the fort of all the boxes.
I was going to bring that up.
Like, I'm sorry, are you addressing me? Because your authority is not recognized in Fort Kick-Ass.
love that joke. That's one of my favorite Krieger lines of the season. That's so funny. Yeah. Fort Kick-Ass. And then the way it's framed and blocked, because it's a close up on Krieger for the whole time. He's like, you talking to me? And then when he says, and when they do the pause for Fort Kick-Ass is when they zoom out and they show that he's in a fort. Yeah. So funny. It's so good. It's just brilliant blocking and so simple. Like that is the simplest way to tell that joke, and it like maximizes the comedy. It's so good.
And just like more dialogue play in this one. Let me just say one more.
Yeah, do it.
Like when Archer is still like in the room with like all the drones, which the drones are what I guess they refer to the people who work at ISIS. And he like talks to Mallory on the phone, and she's like wants him to get a vasectomy or whatever. And then after he gets off the phone, like Cyril's like, what did she say? And then Archer's still like, well, she's still very pro vasectomy. Like he's still like, thinking about his thing.
It's so good. Yeah, it's just that it's like once again, everything in Archer's brain is filtered through himself. Like what about me? Yeah, it's really funny. All right, let's talk about 107. Skytanic. I love this episode. This is the episode where ISIS goes on the maiden voyage of a luxury airship to thwart a potential bomb threat. I love this episode. I love the premise, the idea of a whole episode, a spy thriller set on an airship. Love that premise in general. You could throw that at me in a non-comedy situation and be like, I will watch that. You know what I mean? I would very much watch that. But also I love the airship jokes, like on the Hindenburg 2.0. and when he smacks the cigarette out of that guy's mouth because thinks it's gonna explode the ship.
I like that Archer's like, oh, we'll be in London in like 4 hours. And they're like, well, no, 24 hours. He's like, what the
fuck? Also just all of the jokes in their tiny living quarters that he has to share with Lana, and yet a surprising amount of storage. so funny. Man, this is a great episode. Just a great setting. So many good jokes. Really good character stuff. Like really, like the Lana Cyril stuff is really good in this one. The fact that Cyril stowed away because that insecurity is now continuing to follow him.
Right,
dude, and then they make an excuse to have Cheryl and Pam also there too.
Right,
where
which is right.
Where what was it like? You said that they weren't going to take off for an hour, and then Cheryl just like, I can't remember her line, but she's like, I don't know. Like, why would I know?
Right, why would I know that? Yeah, it's so funny. And then obviously, Cyril Cyril gets so insecure about Lana because of like what he overhears in the room, and that he sleeps with Cheryl again with Pam in the room.
Right. Pam is like on the toilet.
Yeah.
Pam on the toilet.
And this episode is what it showed me. This is the horniest cartoon we've watched for this show so far. Everybody in this show is relentlessly horny.
Yeah.
What are they doing?
That's true. Literally every character is so horny. All of them. Yeah.
There isn't a straight man. It is everyone. And Lana might be the lesser of all of them, but even Lana, why doesn't Lana get dressed the entire episode?
Yeah.
Lana just does not get dressed the whole episode.
Yeah, it's wild. I also love the joke when Cyril overhears and he's like dressed up as the steward and he's bringing them fruit, and overhears her saying like, my vulva is as smooth as a veal cutlet, and then he gets all insecure and runs away, and Archer's like, run after him. we're almost out of fruit.
And then they don't even let her combat that. They just cut. Like, they just keep going.
I also like when Ciro is like, "You're Veely vulva."
Veely vulva. Oh God, Chris Parnell is such a good voice actor. He's so
Truly.
funny. I think that we already kind of, I don't know if this is going to make the cut of the episode, but we already kind of talked about this joke. M as in Nancy is the funniest joke in this episode, I think.
I think that whole bomb defusal scene is like one of the best sequences in the whole show.
I wrote that too.
Status. It's incredible. And
I
Ray
wrote that
is
too,
incredible.
that
It's the
whole
first time
sequence.
Ray really gets to shine.
Right.
Yeah, just every part of that is funny.
And it's all, yeah, it's such a good climax, such a good like in terms of the climactic sequence. Also, second episode in a row where Archer gets shot in the foot, right? I think that happens 2 episodes in a row.
He keeps getting shot.
Yeah. But yeah, like when Cyril pops up and Lana and Cyril push the bomb off, and they're just like very overt about what it all means. Like, we're not gonna make it. No, Cyril, we are gonna make it.
Hooray for metaphor.
Yeah, exactly. It's so funny.
One thing about this episode that was interesting to me, because it's in that scene that you just brought up, is that I just was under the impression that after the episode cut off, Cyril and Lana had that conversation about everything. But it's very clear by the finale that they don't.
Right.
But I just thought it just made all the sense of the world that he, like, because he came there to bring it up. Like, you know what I mean? That's what I thought was going to happen. But
yeah, and that last beat, like one of the last beats is her being like, "So what did you want to talk about?" You know?
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. But I do like that they made, like, honestly, like the show is so episodic, but it really feels like the perfect blend of episodic and serialization. They do such a good job stringing these character arcs through the whole season, even though each episode is very much standalone. It's great. It's really well done. Love it. Y'all have any other?
To me, this is the ideal Archer episode. You know, it has like a strong premise, like a blimp setting is brilliant. You know, it's like you can imagine it in a James Bond thing. I don't know if maybe this was a specific reference to something that did a blimp thing,
right?
But I love it, and I love that there's like a poker scene, so there's like the casino type stuff, and that poker scene is great. Like, I love when he just immediately loses it. Is like, wait, we were going?
We were going. I also love, so you probably make all your money on tips, huh? And then he just walks away.
Oh, and can I say one of my favorite cuts in this episode? We mentioned Pam on the toilet, like while Cyril and Cheryl are doing their thing, and then she's like, "You're also making it hard to drop a deuce," and then it cuts from that to Archer dropping the key into a martini, the key to the suite. So it's like a little plot.
God, the transitions, they do really good, like they do really smart visual transitions like that, and like audio transitions, but they also do such a good job. We haven't even talked about this yet, but so many of the scenes the way they'll transition is that they'll say something at the end of a scene and make it sound like the first line of dialogue from the unrelated next scene is answering the final line of dialogue from the previous scene.
It just
which
creates
is so
this flow. Smart. Yeah,
exactly. It's incredible. I don't know. I can't think of any other show that does that. It's so well executed. Love
it's that, but even if other shows do it right, it's kind of like a weird one-time thing. But that's just what Archer does.
Right.
Like,
it's
that's
how
just
they
something
transition scenes.
Right.
Well, it's so economical too. I feel like every scene in Archer is the smallest amount of time. Like, it's the most concise version possible. Like, we're thrown into the middle of an argument where the conflict is very much at the forefront, you know, and then it'll throw to another scene before it's even resolved, you know?
Right. They do such a good job. Yeah. When they cut in the middle of the conflict and then also make it very apparent what the conflict is to the audience, even though we've missed everything leading up to it. You know, it's very efficient, really well done. Love this one. Skytanic, top.
rules,
That's like this is one of my faves of the whole show. I'm excited to watch through the rest of it again, but this has always been one of my favorite episodes.
I mean, how many classic jokes are in that bomb defusal scene? Like you have the Amazon Mancy. I love him saying the letters XS as in excess. Like it doesn't even make sense at all what he says there. It doesn't. Or when they're so fed up with Archer and he's like, read me the letters. So there's just a really long pause. He's like, you ready?
You ready? I love when Ray gets really mad because Archer said okay. It's like, no, you're supposed to say Roger.
So good.
And then I want to say my favorite joke of the entire episode, which is saying a lot, is when the villain is revealed and Lana goes, Captain Lammers. Nice read, Velma.
Nice read, Velma.
And the best thing about that though is like that he had to have written it that way, like to have that dialogue refer to it. He had to have written it like Velma, like write that, like deliver this like Velma.
Say it as like ridiculous and exaggerated as possible.
Right. That's so good. God, what a smart, well-written show. It's so good. All right, let's talk about 108, The Rock. This is the one when Mallory assigns Archer and Lana to steal a diamond from rival agency Odin's biggest client. One of the few episodes that is co-written by someone else. This is Adam Reed and apparently co-written by someone named Boswell Cocker. Very, very rare that an episode has a co-writer and Archer. The first thing I wrote down in this is they do a joke in here that I first learned because it's also a joke in The Simpsons, which is that flammable and inflammable mean the same thing, which I think they bring up more times in Archer. But there's an episode of The Simpsons where Dr. Nick is like, I think it's in the episode Trilogy of Error, and Dr. Nick is like something blows up an inflammable tank of something, and Dr. Nick goes, you mean inflammable means flammable? Really, as a kid, that is how I learned that those words mean the same thing. It's just through The Simpsons. But yeah, that's pretty funny. Is this the first Burt Reynolds mention this episode? Is the first time he starts talking about Burt Reynolds?
I think it is, yeah.
Yeah. He's obsessed with Burt Reynolds. Archer is obsessed with Burt Reynolds, which culminates in Burt Reynolds guest starring on the show, right?
Yes, it does. Season 3, I believe.
Man, I can't wait to get there. Man, I love this show. I'm very excited to keep watching this. Yeah. Tariq, what do you think about this episode?
It's another really good one. This one has a lot of jokes that really make me laugh. Also, one thing I noticed, because at least from what I remember from my initial watch of Archer years ago, Pam was my favorite. So I was waiting for Pam to be normal, and this is the closest thing to Pam being normal, this episode in particular, because they show that this is when she starts to become like that loose cannon. You know what I mean? Like she Cyril has that. It was a really weird phone, by the way, but he shows that video of her walking and is like, guess who has breast cancer? Like, like stuff that no actual rational person would do. Right. But that's why I appreciate it.
Was that was Scatterbrain Jane also, right?
Right. Yeah, it was.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I don't know that they ever really do anything with Jane, but
they bring her back in the season finale for a beat. Because when Cyril's going over all the people he slept with and Scatterbrain Jane walks by. But this episode does have so many good jokes. One of my favorites is I invented that, the tactical turtleneck. The tactical neck.
The tactical neck.
And then this is a joke that I remembered for years. This is one of my favorite jokes in the show. And they're like, I think they're protesting outside, and he goes, what's with all the bottles? It's like a trailer park Easter.
Oh man.
How do you think of that? That's so funny.
The protest has it reminded me of Futurama because in Jurassic Park, Fry does the "What do we want? Fry's dog. What do we want? It Fry's dog."
Yeah.
But they do. What do we want? Unfair. When do we want it? Change.
I really, really love that whole storyline of the ISIS drones trying to unionize.
Yeah.
I mean, it's really fun just because I love like Mallory being stuck in the elevator and them all like outside in their little standoff. I also love the tech guy who doesn't really do that much, who they call like there's that great scene where Lana's like, "Where is the Hobbit guy?" And Archer's like, "The Hobbit was." I don't think they like to be called hobbits, Lana. And then she's like, "No, he's a Hobbit enthusiast." And Archer's like,
"Oh." Oh my god, it's so funny.
But Tariq, you're right. Pam is so funny in this. Like how she's drunk the whole episode. There's that great bit where she makes Cyril like punch. Like, does she punch? He punches Jane in the stomach or something. Who did he punch in the stomach?
Right.
I can't remember. And then he's like, "Geez, that's how Houdini died." And she goes, "Houdini died of AIDS." And then Cyril says, "No, why do you always say that?
Why do you
need to stop saying that?"
It's just like this show. It's like it'll tell a good joke and then one up it and make it even like deeper and funnier. Like the idea of like just of correcting that and then be like, why do you always say that?
How often?
How many conversations do you have about it? Yeah.
It's so good. I also love the whole idea of all the drones unionizing. I think that's especially because like in these spy things, they're the characters who are like overlooked. They're never thought about. So the idea of like in here in season 1 being like, well, how they literally couldn't do any of the spy shit without them. So like obviously like unionizing and getting more money makes sense.
I also like tense up sometimes when I'm like rewatching something and realizing that it's about unions, and I sort of like worry about like where it's gonna land on it because like I wasn't like a big fan of The Office or whatever, but like isn't there like some unionization thing storyline in The Office and then it gets shot down as like not being financially feasible or something? And so it was like The Office was kind of anti-union. I was like very happy that this ended with them getting their cost of living adjustment, you know, and it was like a victory for the drones.
I love the way they did it, and also there's another great pause. Obviously, the show is the master of the pauses, but I love they're about to save Archer and Lana, and Krieger's like, "Well, now's the time for us. We have all the leverage right now. Like, give us our cost of living our agreement, or we're not going to save your son." And then there's just a really long pause, and she goes, "So what's it going to be? Are you going to give in?" And then it's a really long pause, and Mallory just goes, "Not at the number you quoted me." Like she's still fighting back. She's still fighting back, even though her son's about to die.
Oh my god! Oh, dude, you know what's another good pause in this one? Another good gag is Cyril getting this tiny brown diamond to propose to Lana, which everyone knows is a terrible idea. But then he uses the diamond at the end to call for the extraction or whatever. The nerds like create a device that uses the diamond, and then I think Krieger's like, "Thank God for this tiny brown diamond that Cyril had," or whatever, and Lana's like, "Wait, Cyril, why do you have a diamond?" And then he's like, "Oh, it's my ear stud from college." And there's just this pause. She's like, "Really?" And I'm just like,
"Oh yeah, it's so good." Oh gosh, it's like it's hard. You can't say enough about how good the dialogue is in this show. It's the dialogue and the dialogue editing. It's just so well done. You guys, any other thoughts about The Rock before we move on to job offer?
No.
Oh, we should say Jeffrey Tambor returned, right? As Len Trexler is the first time we see him.
Is he in The Rock, or is that in Job Offer?
He is in The Rock, and then again in Job Offer.
Oh,
he's just on the video screen because they're competing with Odin for the
that's right
diamond thing or whatever.
Okay.
Right, that's right. So he shows up in this one. First,
two
Tambor.
characters in one season.
Yeah.
Because he plays Utne also in Killing Utne.
That's right. He plays Utne also. And yeah, I forgot about that. All right, 109 Job Offer. Great episode. This one where Archer takes a higher paying job at Odin. This one introduces Barry. Love Barry. The rival who's basically just like rival Archer. He's Odin's Archer.
Right.
But this is like a really good Archer Mallory episode. Like this really gets to like gets into the weeds of their toxic relationship to the point where Mallory burns Archer, which is crazy.
That's right.
Yeah, it's nuts.
Put the burn notes out. Yeah. My favorite line, I'm pretty sure, I think I wrote this down right. My favorite line is after Lana tells Archer that Mallory burned him, and he goes, "That is classic her." And she goes, "You're both classic her."
Yeah, I love that. I wrote that down too.
It's true.
That's really good.
So smart. Mikey, what do you think about Job Offer? I know you like this one.
I really love this one. I mean, I mentioned I love Barry. Great character.
Yeah.
And the Europe setting immediatty is like really freaking cool. How it starts off in the cold open with like a car chase through like the little Parisian streets or whatever. Yeah, I'm a big fan of this one, and it's a great Lana episode too.
Totally. Yeah, and they and once again, like this is, and they obviously Lana and Cyril still haven't had that conversation. But like this is another one where Cyril follows Lana somewhere out of his insecurity. Like he literally gets a ticket on the plane and follows her.
This is when I wrote like he followed her on her flight. All right, Cyril has clear trust issues. Like this isn't just like now it's implemented into his character at this point. This is who he is. There's no turning back.
And you also get the sense that it's partially like, yeah, he was made insecure, but it's also like the fact that he then has gone on to cheat on her a number of times. And so like, it's the fact that he does it and like that guilt following him that I think leads him down those roads of insecurity. He's like, well, I did it. So of course she's cheating on me too, you know? And it's it's wild. I like that through line for this season. Like just because it's literally set up in the first episode. Like they just like they did a really good job slowly building this like the problems with Cyril and Lana's relationship and how seemingly everyone else undermines it. Like Archer is constantly undermining it, and the fact that he used to be with Lana undermines it. And then obviously Pam and Cheryl undermine it, and Mallory to an extent too. Mallory's just like she's just Mallory. Like Mallory undermines everyone. Man, Barry is also really funny in this episode.
Barry rules.
Yeah, and
well, I mean, like the flashback to like why Barry has the beef with Archer is because Barry's hanging off a building and Archer's yelling at him because he like tore his suit.
Oh yeah.
And he's like, "Oh, will you just help me up?" And then another long pause and then no.
And then he falls and breaks his femur, right? Yeah. I love the we talked about this earlier, but the shot of like they cut to Archer's new office at Odin, and they do that, and and it's Barry, and he goes, "Archer, what the hell?" And he's shot in the arm, and Archer's standing there like with a gun pointed at him. He's like, "I told you not to come in here." And then they zoom out, and he's sleeping with what's her name, Francois. Francois, yeah.
No. Francois is it Francois?
It's something like that.
Because Francois is like a man's name, isn't it?
Right. Frambois? I don't know. It's some French name that
I wish I could remember.
Yeah.
I love like maybe my favorite part of the episode is like just how amused Archer is when they walk in on Cyril sleeping with her.
Oh yeah.
You remember? Like like Cyril does his hello.
Yeah.
And Archer's just like, "Oh man, that's bad." Like with a little like smile on his face.
It's so good. Yeah, like Archer's so entertained by the drama. He's just like, yeah.
and it's like cuts right into like the next scene where he's the Pele of anal line comes up.
Yeah, it's like Alana's complaining like about walking in on her boyfriend, and he's just like, probably ex-boyfriend.
Yeah, he's not coming back. That chick was like the Pele of anal.
Oh God, it's so good. Yeah, I love this episode. I think it's really funny.
Yeah.
I love the introduction of Barry. Barry ends up being such a fun recurring character, and they take him in crazy places as the show goes on, which I'm excited to get to and rewatch. Also, there's a pretty good like Pam being kind of a fucked up person moment where Mallory's crying because she burned Archer, and it's like, he's gone, and she's just like, well, you can always, like, what? Well, I was gonna say you could always have another baby, but you're all dried up down there.
Mallory crying is so funny too. Like Jessica Walter, she can really milk that. It's so funny.
Yeah, she's really wailing.
I think all of that. I like the episode. That's what I latched on to when I was watching this one. That this one, like all of the episodes that we talked about do a lot of character work, but this one I feel like does the most character work so far.
Right.
And it was really interesting to me that they kind of do like a Archer and his mom, like they do like this kind of like breakup story so early on. But I think it really works, and I think it's really interesting to watch and try to figure out the motives and the understandings of why they're treating each other the way that they are. And I think what I gathered is that, like, I don't know, it's been a while since I've seen this show, granted, so I might need more context, but I kind of feel like Mallory feels guilty for not being around Archer a lot as a child, so it kind of validates her to feel like he needs her as an adult. So when he's not around and he doesn't need her anymore, that's kind of what sends her through that downward spiral almost.
Right. That's an interesting read on it. All right, you guys got any other thoughts on Job Offer? Great. Jeffrey Tambor gives a great performance in this too. That's a funny character.
Barry, you ass.
You ass. Yeah.
Woodhouse does heroin with the monkey.
Yeah, that's right. With the lemur. That sets up his. That's right. I forgot that starts to set up that situation. Yeah, like Woodhouse obviously, like even that is an interesting thing though. The more I think about, I'm curious to analyze the whole Woodhouse relationship, because it seems like he cares about Archer because he raised him, but also in this episode, like once he's not part of ISIS, he's just like not going to help him anymore, you know?
Right.
So yeah, I'm curious is Woodhouse really just a perfectly dedicated like employee of the Archers? Maybe. Or is he does he actually care about Archer, you know?
What's great about Woodhouse is that I wouldn't blame him either way.
Right.
No matter which way he looked at it, it could be that way or the other way, and like I could get it. Like I would understand. In the end does the stuff we were talking about earlier, the callback, but it does it's like a callback to like some other episode, like where Archer says like, okay, I guess just pout. Like, yeah, that's early. Like, that's not even in this episode.
Yeah. And I think, like Mikey mentioned this earlier, that maybe the show started to overly rely on episodic callbacks, like callbacks to jokes from earlier episodes. But overall, I love how the show does reward you for like watching all of it. You know what I mean? Like, if you really remember those old jokes and callbacks, like then those jokes hit hard. And that joke, I think, still works, even not as a callback, but it's remembering it from the other episode, it's like, it just hits different. And that's also another thing that Arrested Development was so good at. Another reason why these shows kind of feel in tandem with each other in some ways.
Yeah, and the end of this one too, doesn't it end with Archer's like mangled body
right
on the hood of the car.
In a car
you know,
crash.
Like he's getting shot, he's getting injured, but like I guess it's sort of like the episodic nature of it where it's not quite serialized yet, where his health just sort of resets, I guess, every episode.
Right. Yeah, they
never see him
or
on
enough
crutches
time
or
passes.
anything.
Yeah, like but he gets shot so many times, like they just ignore it. He got shot. He got shot like in the knee. He shot himself in the knee in this episode, and then it was forgot about scenes later. Like he because he shoots it off his door when he tries to get into his apartment. It's
one more gag I want to reference in this one is when he's with the French woman whose name we can't remember, and he's like weirded out by it, and she's like, "But we are famille," and he's like, "Yeah, the whole famille thing is making this a little creepy." And then she's like, "Maybe if you tried it from behind," and then like the way the animation is, his pants are just immediately thrown down. He's like, "Yeah, let's try that."
that is such a good beat. Yeah, like it's funny because we talk about how good they are at like the pause sometimes, but like that's the opposite, where it's like the faster they get it done, the funnier it is. Yeah. All right, should we move on to the season finale?
Let's do it.
All right, 110, Dial M for Mother. This is the one where Archer is kidnapped by those same rival assassins, and Lana confronts Cyril about all the cheating. It's kind of a weird season finale. It is. Yeah, it's got a weird vibe to it. And they like kind of have this underlying thing of like who is Archer's real father, but they don't really get into it in any meaningful way. They just kind of present the question. It's interesting. Yeah. Tariq, what do you think about the season finale? Oh, sorry. No, go ahead. You got stuff to say, Mikey? Go for it.
What's going
on? No, just on that point, it feels like it's setting up like a Mamma Mia thing, where it's like, which of the three guys are his dad? You know?
Oh my god, dude! And Archer does so many good, like especially after season 1, they start to go to so many cool exotic locations. That would have been pretty funny if they did a Mamma Mia thing. They go to a Greek island. A Greek island would be a great setting for Archer. That's really funny.
I mean, he's into Greek.
Get
it? There it is.
Get it?
I get it now.
Now I get it. Yeah. All right, Tariq, what do you think about Dial M for Mother?
I like this one a lot. So when I was watching it, I don't know, like it just kind of felt like I was just watching Archer the whole because that's what the hell I was doing. But it just kind of felt like I was just watching like multiple episodes of a show, right? It felt like I was watching like Simpsons or something like that when I was watching this. But then like when we get here and they're instantly tackling different things that characters didn't talk to each other about throughout the whole season. I wasn't expecting. It caught me off guard. Like I wasn't expecting it. I was like, "Oh shit! This is literally just all season build up," and I thought it was brilliant. Like I thought it was like the way it was put together. I thought it was was really really good. And this was also the episode that cemented to me that Cyril is trash. And I have come here with a thesis to present. Archer is secretly about nice guy syndrome, because Cyril, the entire time, Cyril presents himself as like this really, really good guy,
right?
That wouldn't harm anybody, and he just he wants to make sure everybody's feelings are intact. It's like, no, she wouldn't do that. She wouldn't do this. When he's the one that does the worst. Right. The whole time, you know what I mean? Like this entire season, he's just kind of literally the worst, and he hides it, and that's what's weird about it.
Like Archer is unabashedly awful. Archer is awful, and he wears traits. He wears it on his sleeve. Cyril is set up to be like the good guy who gets screwed over. You know, the nice guy who finishes last, but as it turns out. Cyril's got a whole slew of his own problems, and he's pretty fucking terrible. Yeah.
So I know you haven't seen it, Johnny, but Mikey, have you seen Insecure on HBO?
Oh yeah, I love Insecure.
Dope. So there's fuck what season? I think that's the second season with Lawrence and Tasha. And Lawrence and Tasha get into that argument because he doesn't show up to the barbecue. And Tasha says, you're a fuck boy. And he's like, wait, chill. And she's like, no, you know what? You're worse. You're a fuck boy who thinks you're a good dude. And that's what Cyril is.
That's what Cyril is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He thinks he's a good dude and he presents himself like that, but nah, it's no.
He's a fuck boy.
He is a fuck boy. And they honestly even did a great job setting up like that, like, because even in the second episode when he's like dancing with the call girl, and like there's even that like there's like that little moment where she basically implies that she can like feel how big his dick is, and she's like, that's not all gun, and he's like, no ma'am, you know, he's like very into it.
That did make me raise an eyebrow, but I kind of ignored it for a little bit, but now it's like no, that's him.
I forgot that they do sort of start this joke that Cyril has like is like well endowed, but they don't really call it back ever. I guess that's the explanation for, I guess could be the explanation for why Lana is with him in the first place, right? Because like what about Cyril is appealing to her?
Right. It's like, I guess in the context of the show, he's so fucking seemingly so fucking safe after Archer. Like Archer is, you know what I mean? And so like Archer is just like the fucking worst. And so like she goes in the complete opposite direction. Weirdly, I just kind of, so this is going to be a funny thing to relate this to, but I just made my video about Satan in South Park, and Satan does the same thing in South Park. He's dating Saddam Hussein, who is like this bombastic, horrible, abusive person. And then when they follow up the movie, he starts dating this guy named Chris, who is just like spineless, nice guy. But as it turns out, he is like he's sort of nice guy syndrome too, because he like in certain ways imposes his will on Satan, but in a nice way. You know what I mean? Like he's like, I decided we're gonna do this, and Satan's like, fuck, I don't want to do that. But yeah, it's that is really interesting how like obviously like it's established in the show that Cyril seemingly has good sex with people because a lot of people start sleeping with him. You know what I mean?
That's a good
I appreciate that Mallory at the very least addresses the fact that everybody keeps sleeping together.
Yeah. But they also imply
I thought I was going insane.
But they also imply that Mallory came on to Cyril.
That's right. They do the graduate thing.
So I guess that actually maybe begs okay, big brain moment right here. Was Mallory actually mad because Cyril slept with someone else and didn't sleep with her? Because did she come on to Cyril and then he turned her down, and then so
Mallory gets rejected a bunch.
Right. Yeah. But the fact that the impetus of her putting in this like whole new policy was that Cyril cheated on Lana, only for them to then reveal that Mallory came on to Cyril as well. Is interesting. Like is that related?
True.
Yeah.
I didn't do the science on that. Yeah.
Lana's whole revenge scheme in this is so funny. It's probably my favorite part of the episode.
Yeah.
I think that's when she like over the intercom is like, if you want to have ball slappy sex with me, then and just the fact that she like doesn't have sex with any of them, and it's like you can just say that you did, but they
pay her
realize that everybody did it, that they all know that they didn't.
Right, but they're still willing to tell each other that they did. Yeah, it's so funny.
There's a scene with the guy, and he's like, "That's a lot of money," and she's like, "Not compared to rotator cuff surgery, which you're gonna need after all the jillion high fives you give to all your little bros."
That's so funny,
and that pacifies him. He's like, "Yeah, there it is. Yeah, you're right."
and then she sleeps with Pam, right? At the end.
Yeah.
Hell yeah. Love that.
That's Pam's arc the whole season.
Love that for Pam. That's great. Obviously, by the end of the show,
I can't wait for you guys to get to the really good Pam stuff.
Dude, Pam becomes
I
so
love
funny.
Pam, man.
Isn't she just addicted to coke for all of Archer Vice?
Yes, it's so funny.
And she gets skinny.
Yeah, because of all the
gets coke
cocaine
skinny.
she's doing.
Oh my! I
man.
can't wait. I love Vice. Oh my god.
We gotta. I guess we gotta cover. Maybe we do have to cover this show just straight through, or at least like 6 seasons off the bat.
Right.
11 is a lot.
Just
but,
go until you can't take it.
Right. But
Maybe.
I do want to get to Vice. Like, I'm really excited
Vice
to
is
Vice.
so funny.
Yeah, and it's funny because I remember when it came out, a lot of people didn't love Vice, but I think the show benefits greatly from being binged, especially Vice, because Vice is the first real serialized season, and like week to week, it feels they feel like they should be disconnected when they're not, and so, but when you watch it all straight through, everything's so fresh in your mind that it just feels like one great big story. Yeah, Vice is rad. I really like Archer Vice.
Yeah.
Good stuff. All right, should we talk about like the season as a whole? I guess we've talked a lot about it already. We've kind of just like sprinkled in so much conversation about it. But what a great first season of a show. What a great first season. I don't think there's a bad episode in this bunch. And I can't. I've said this before, but there just doesn't feel like there's any show like Archer. Like there's not a show where the dialogue is so quick and sharp and also character building at the same time. And it's just got such a good flow to its comedy. And it does these like very specific, it has these very specific things that it does and like devices that it uses, and it uses them all so perfectly. Like the end joke beats are always so funny. The way that they transition between scenes, like we talked about, is so clever. It's great. I'm like, when we decided to do Archer, I was like, oh yeah, I haven't seen Archer in a while. And after watching season 1, I'm like, I can't fucking wait to watch more Archer.
Yeah, right. Me too.
The show's so fun. You guys got any other general thoughts on season 1?
Yeah, I mean, I'm excited because I'm excited for you guys to talk about it going forward, and I fully plan on watching along, because admittedly I was editing the podcast, but I wasn't watching along with Futurama and Rick and Morty.
It's a lot to watch.
Right.
It is, yeah. Getting on this season 1 episode and getting a jump start on it now, I'm in it. So I'm ready. And I'm pretty sure season 2 is my favorite, though it's been a long time. Like
season 2 is
best
so
episodes. Good. Some of the best episodes I think are in season 2. So yeah, I'm excited to watch that myself. This season 1, I mean, so great to look back on. Like I have a lot of nostalgia for it and just how much I loved it back then. And I was very pleased at how much it was making me laugh every single episode. Like I would belly laugh at least once per episode,
Same. Right. So good. Tariq, you got any thoughts on season 1?
No, you pretty much summed it up. It's just really, it's just a great first season. Like I enjoyed this thoroughly. Like I didn't. And I think I told you this earlier today, but Archer is just such an easy show to watch. Like, I just remember like in the Rick and Morty watch, I'd be like, man, I gotta turn this off. Like, and even sometimes it would get like that with Futurama sometimes, but that's because we were watching like 26 in a week. But still, like here, it's just like I just kept letting them go, and it was just really funny. Like, and what I appreciate is that there's a lot of character work too. There's a lot of stuff to look at and figure out how they react to each other, and all of the characters play off well with each other. That's actually, I learned doing this that they don't record in the same room because it just feels like they do. I was always under the impression that they did, and so to hear that they don't, like, man, it's brilliant. Like the show is just brilliant. Like
they do it all in Georgia, and like Adam Reed would like direct the actors over the phone, and like some people would be in New York, some people would be in LA. Like they just record it wherever,
It's wild. That's wild. It is interesting when you learn that about shows. Like one thing that I learned is that this is not Archer related, but this is related to voice actors doing performances elsewhere. Raphael Bob Waxberg, creator of BoJack Horseman, I believe has never met Amy Sedaris in person. They have only done all of her dialogue over the phone because she lives in New York.
Wow.
And so like she did the whole show from New York, and she like, and you know, she just stays in New York. So she doesn't come out for any of the events or anything. But
that's crazy.
Yeah, it's impressive how they can. It's just like, yeah, the distance, the long distance production is very impressive to me.
I will say it's not a cartoon that swears, but there's a similar thing that happens on Phineas and Ferb. The guy that does Ferb, because Ferb has a British accent, so he has a British voice actor. The guy that does Ferb, I remember Vincent Martella, the guy that does Phineas, he said, yeah, I've only met him like twice. I was like, geez. And that show was on for like 11 years. Like, that show lasted forever. Like, you know what I mean? The fact that like you only met him twice is crazy.
Wild. Oh, great first season. All right. Should we do our rankings?
Yeah. Let's do it.
All right. I'll go first. And I got to say off the bat, like, I mean, it's like we said, every episode is good. So like I look at this list and I'm like, man, is that really 10? But I'm like, yeah, it's just because they're all great. It's
right.
just because they're all great.
I feel the same way.
But agree. Here's my list. 10, Killing Utne. 9, Dial M for Mother. 8, Skorpio. 7, The Rock. 6, Training Day. 5, Mole Hunt. 4, Job Offer. 3, Diversity Hire. 2, Honeypot. And 1, Skytanic.
Yeah, some of our numbers match up. And I will say my number 1 might surprise y'all because I don't think I said that I liked it as much. I don't even think I had a lot to say when we talked about it. So you want me to go? I'll go.
Yeah, let's go.
Let's hear it.
Do it. All right. Number 10, Killing Utne, right?
Utne.
Number 10, Killing Utne. Number 9, The Rock. Number 8, Honeypot. Number 7, Mole Hunt. Number 6, Skorpio. Number 5, Dial M for Mother. Number 4, Job Offer. Number 3, Skytanic. Number 2, Diversity Hire. Number 1, Training Day.
Wow, Training Day.
We are all over the place.
Yeah. Like, but it does speak to how good this season is. Like,
it's true. It's like I feel like mine doesn't resemble either of yours.
Let's hear it.
Okay, so here's mine. Number 10, Dial M for Mother. Number 9, Training Day. Number 8, Killing Utne. 7, Diversity Hire. 6, The Rock. 5, Honeypot. 4, Skorpio. 3, Job Offer. 2, Mole Hunt. 1, Skytanic.
Nice. We got the same number 1.
So John and I have the same number 1.
And we
That's
both
like the
have
only similarity.
We both have Job Offer pretty high. Like you had it at 3 and I had it at 4.
I had it at 4.
Right?
We all got Job Offer.
Job Offers. It's close to all close.
I was pretty tempted to put Mole Hunt at number 1, but that's quite a move. Like saying the pilot is the best one.
Is the best one. Mole Hunt is really good though. Yeah,
it is really good.
Yeah, it's such a good pilot.
If it was the dinosaur version, then it's number 1. That's where I'm at.
Yeah. Let's all re-rank to include the Velociraptor version. You
guys want to pause so that you guys can watch that real quick?
Yeah, we'll come back. Come back in 22 minutes.
It's a jump cut.
Man, it's such a good season though. Like the fact that ours are so diverse and like also all of us were like, there's not a bad episode in this season. That's like I think it just really speaks to how good this first season is. And I'm really excited to watch season 2 because I remember season 1 and 2 always just being like my favorites. And season 3, I think has I remember having some really, really good stuff too. But I'm really excited to go through this show again. It's been so long since I've watched it. And there's like at least 3 seasons I haven't watched. So I'm stoked to get there.
Right.
Yeah.
Watch something tonight.
I might too. Yeah. Like after talking about it, I'm like, oh fuck, I want to watch Archer. I guess we should probably wrap it up. Mikey, you got anything to plug? You wanna plug your socials or anything else?
Plug anything? I guess I could plug my socials at Mikey Yunez on Twitter. I don't really not that active, I guess. I can plug my day job. Sure. Yeah. Working for, if you're interested in rap battle or street dance battle, there's this app called Caffeine that has a whole bunch of shows relating to battle rap and dance battle. If you go to caffeine.tv, you'll see a whole bunch of shows, a whole lot of content related to it. If you're interested in that stuff, it's pretty rad. And I like having a job. So you should check it out for me. Help me out.
And also check out the Cartoons That Curse podcast, produced by Michael Yunez.
Absolutely.
Right. Yes. Check out that podcast, Cartoons That Curse.
Dude, this was great.
We'll
Thank you so much.
Include a link to it somewhere.
Yeah, we'll link to it in the description.
Yeah.
Mikey, this is great. I'm so glad you came on for this one. This is the perfect one to bring you on Mike. And honestly, like, I feel like since you love Archer so much, and if you're going to be recording these with us, you shouldn't be afraid in future eps to just pipe in if you have something
that'll be hilarious.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll do it, or I'll tell you what. If I watch, I'll come in for the ranking too.
Oh yeah, why not?
Ooh.
Yeah, why not?
Really
I love that. That's great. Yeah, dude. Thanks for coming on. This is great. We'll definitely have you on to do a guest on another episode in the future.
Absolutely.
I don't know what else. I don't know what else to say. I guess I should just plug it. Thanks to everyone for listening. Thanks to this guy, Michael Yunez, for producing and editing the podcast. Thank you to Kerrifique for our artwork. Thank you to Jakeneutron for our theme song. Thank you to Tunerific Tariq for being my co-host. And thank you to me for being the other co-host.
That's right.
Yeah.
There it is.
We will be back next week with Archer Season 2. And thank you very much. Bye.
Yeah. End card. Here it is right here.